Good evening to all of you. Thank you for joining us on 13 Plus. I'm Mary Coleman. Let's jump right into our story for this evening. Now, suicide is a public health problem that often gets pushed into the shadows. Now, a family is taking the pain from their own loss and turning it into action. Reporter Heather Graff shares their story tonight.
It's a topic that often hides in the shadows because people worry they'll say the wrong thing. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. We're talking about suicide, and it's a serious public health problem. The CDC says more than 50,000 people died by suicide in 2023. That's an all-time high for the United States. So we want to start with a critical resource for those who may need help.
Yeah, this is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, where counselors and support are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just call or text 988 from your phone, no matter where you live. Reporter Heather Graff shares one family's fight for suicide prevention after experiencing heartbreaking loss. And we want to warn you, this story contains mentions of suicide.
This is one of my favorite photos of us.
Each image, each memory, and each smile shared between Chelsea Van Thoff and Peter Tripp.
And this day was pure joy.
Now brings a mix of emotions.
I thought we had more time.
Because Chelsea knows their family photo album is forever unfinished.
He was the love of my life.
Peter was also an animal lover, a veterinarian, a son, a brother, and a friend. But on April 13th, 2022, he died by suicide in Washington, D.C.
I got a text from him at 10:40 p.m. Basically, telling me that he couldn't bear to face his emotions.
Peter was just 29 years old.
And I'm just thinking to myself, this is all a bad dream. I'm in a dream. I'm in a nightmare. I knew nothing about suicide.
So as Chelsea grieved, she began doing research and learned that suicide has for decades been a leading cause of death in the U.S. The latest CDC numbers show in 2021 more than 48,000 lives lost and a national suicide rate that equates to 14 deaths per 100,000 people.
It's jarring to know that many people have killed themselves and been in crisis like that.
Do you think we need to talk about it more then?
Yes.
As a society?
As a society, for sure. I talk about it all the time. The more we talk about it, I 100% believe the less it's going to happen.
It's a very important public health problem.
Allie Walker is with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and she says Chelsea is onto something.
A lot of people are worried, if I bring up suicide, I'm going to give somebody the idea. And in fact, that's been heavily researched and proven wrong.
AFSP recently launched a new year-long campaign it calls Talk Away the Dark, because the organization believes talking is actually the first step to preventing suicide.
How do you go about doing that?
So a lot of it is stigma reduction, a lot of it is education, and also building up an infrastructure that supports mental health.
Plus, she says we must all be ready to have honest conversations with loved ones who are struggling.
So if they start talking about, how they've been feeling down and whatever, you can say, and this is a phrase I use a lot, sometimes when people are feeling like this, they think about suicide. Is that something that you've been thinking about? And that kind of gives them the opportunity then to share with you.
It impacts everybody.
Over the past year, Chelsea has worked to turn her pain into purpose, advocating successfully for suicide prevention barriers that will soon be installed on the DC Bridge where Peter took his life.
The advocacy was partly a way to feel like I had control over something, like I could do something about this.
Chelsea's efforts also extend to the industry, where both she and Peter built their careers. You see, another CDC study found veterinarians are at increased risk of suicide when compared with the general population. The report cites data spanning more than 3 decades and potential factors that include veterinarians' long hours, increasing educational debt-to-income ratio, and a poor work-life balance.
I think we need to approach it from both sides, within the profession and outside the profession. Everyone I talk to about anything related to animals or suicide, I leave them with, please be kind to your veterinarian.
We should mention there is help available right now. For instance, the nonprofit called Not One More Vet.
We strive to make sure people know that they are not alone. We do education. We are teaching everybody in the veterinary profession how to be more mentally healthy and how to look out for signs that somebody is struggling.
The AFSP also offers resources specific to healthcare professionals, including veterinarians, though the foundation often reminds people suicide is complex and there is no single cause.
There's so many factors that contribute to a suicide death. You can't pin it down on one thing. So that's not to diminish the value of observing these patterns, but just remembering that that's a part of a bigger picture.
Chelsea's promise to Peter is to keep the conversation going,
I see this as part of his legacy.
shining a light on suicide and showing others there's hope.
I want his life and his memory to save lives. That's what it's gonna do.
As you just heard, suicide is typically the culmination of many different factors. But we did ask the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention about possible warning signs. Experts say mental health conditions like depression and anxiety can increase risk. They also say you should keep an eye out for changes in behavior. Other potential indicators include sleeping too much or too little, giving away prized possessions, increased use of alcohol or drugs, mood swings, and feelings of hopelessness.
You've heard us talk a lot about the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Since its launch in July 2022, 988 has received more than 9 million calls, texts, and chats. When someone dials 988, a crisis counselor on the other end is ready to help. Professionals can talk people through whatever they are struggling with in regard to mental health. They can also send professionals out to meet a caller in person. Cassie Villegas with 988 provider Solari in Arizona believes more people who are struggling are seeking help and finding it.
It's easy to remember, and more people are becoming aware that it is not only a service that's available, but a trusted service that they're going to get somebody to answer that call.
Once again, if you or someone you know is struggling with a mental health crisis, text or call the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988. Help is available 24 hours a day.
Very important message there. And once again, just a reminder, if you or a loved one is struggling, you can call or text 988 24 hours a day to seek help and talk to someone. You are taking a live look outside right now. That sun is getting ready to set, but hey, don't those mountains look gorgeous out there? We hope you're having a great evening and will join us for 13 News Live at 10 for your news and weather headlines. Have a good one, and we'll see you then.